Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. It's Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. So we have concluded with the closing arguments, the rebuttal, the charges being presented to the jury. So now the jury is deliberating, and now we wait. So the result of this is going to be whether or not Tasha K is going to be held liable for the defamation lawsuit Cardi B filed against her. So we are going to quickly recap what Mr. Dennis Byron just reported with Brittany Dobbins. They did like a little lunch report. He said that he's going to stay at the courthouse or close to the courthouse, so that way the moment that the verdict is in, whether or not Tasha K is liable, he is right there at the scene. So Brittany Dobbins wanted to provide a legal perspective, and it was pretty unbiased, and it was nice because it got up to like over 2,000 people in this live, and it was really awesome to see like all of the love and for the most part all of the positivity. So Brittany Dobbins went into what the plaintiff's attorney said, which is Cardi B's attorney. So Lisa Moore was the person who did the closing arguments of Cardi B's powerful legal team. Basically, first thing she did, she thanked the jury. She said that the plaintiff was appreciative of the time spent on the jury and felt that they were all specially selected to partake in this particular trial and this particular case. They wanted to lay out to the jury essentially what they were trying to prove, which was each of the defamatory statements made by Tasha K were false. So they had basically supporting evidence for each of the claims, each of the defamatory claims, which were the prostitution claims, the drug claims, the herpes and HPV claims, the defacing act, which is the act that was involving the stripper and the beer bottle, and allegedly cheating on Offset and committing adultery. And so they wanted to basically say that the evidence that was presented either proved to be false or the defense themselves did not provide enough evidence to show that it was true. They also wanted to argue that Tasha K acted in malice and knowingly published things that were defamatory and slanderous about Cardi B and knew that they were false and acted with a reckless disregard. And that also there were several attempts to, work with Tasha K before it got to this point. And Tasha K still refused to take down the videos even till this day, basically presenting to the jury that Tasha K is willing to still keep up videos as long as it brings in views and money for her, and she's willing to do anything for money, and that she was never going to take down the videos unless Cardi B paid her to. And then also, they were also trying to say the damage, the physical and mental and emotional harm that this has done to their plaintiff Cardi B, how she was suicidal, and a lot of the physical ramifications and the ramifications of what takes place after this trial are going to be ongoing, not just whatever the jury decides upon when they make their decision. And Brittany had pointed out that they had a strategic way of presenting evidence. So they would basically show videos to support their arguments, to show how Tasha K was acting and how she was, making these defamatory statements. And then they would pause the video and talk about it. And so then another main point that Brittany Dobbins made was she said demonstrative, which means that the plaintiff's attorneys were utilizing an exhibit piece of cardboard with like words, so that those would be like the keywords, key images that is going to last in the juror's mind as they're presenting it. And so it was basically 6 big demonstrative exhibits to show a timeline from when the first defamatory statement was made from Tasha K to where we are now, and to really have those images ingrained into the juror's mind, the seriousness of those defamatory statements. And again, there was like a big projector so that they could play all of the videos so that the jury could see all of the defamatory statements once again, and just some of the, malice and the intent behind a lot of it. And also wanted to bring up the videos as well when she was talking about, not taking the cease and desist seriously. So then each side had like an hour 20, hour 30 minutes to present their closing arguments. However, since this is the plaintiff's case, they wanted to reserve time for a rebuttal from whatever the defense attorneys say. So they had an additional 17 minutes for rebuttal, or they took out 17 minutes from their total closing arguments time to, come back and present the rebuttal to the jury of whatever the defense said that they can refute. So Olga was the the lead attorney who did the closing arguments. She thanks the jury as well. Also was explaining to the jury a bunch of different terms such as burden of proof, and also, that she only has one time to talk to them because and not to hold it against them, and that they were trying to use clips that, basically were common sense. And they wanted to, have the jury weigh the evidence, weigh everything that was presented in the case. And basically, it was conjecture that you can choose to believe or choose not to believe what's being presented. And their whole closing argument surrounded with the Star Maureen Jones interview that she had with Tasha K. And the defense was trying to argue that there is no reasonable evidence to prove whether or not, or it was Cardi B in that defacing video of the porn star. And so then there were several herpes claims, and then they were trying to say that genital herpes was never mentioned in any of the videos and that they were only talking about cold sores. And then they tried to make a lot of arguments about Offset, and that since Offset's not there, Offset's not suing Tasha K, Offset's not suing Kibi Studios, and Offset never spoke on the stand. So they're trying to invoke him. And then they also showed pictures of Cardi B and Offset trying to paint the picture that they had herpes or they had cold sores on their faces. And then they were trying to then utilize Cardi B's music or interaction that she was having with the fans at concerts, where she might have, referred to herself as a hoe. And then also Tasha K refers to her friends as a hoe. And Tasha K says that means to her the same terminology as, excuse my language, the term bitch. And then they wanted to hone in that even though specifically they didn't have proof of Cardi B saying that she did coke, that Cardi B allegedly admits that she is doing other drugs, so it's foreseeable that means she can do coke as well. And so then essentially after that, the plaintiff gets back to poke holes in what the defense said. So I think the judge gave them maybe an extra minute to present their rebuttal, but their whole purpose was to poke holes in the defense's case. And, basically that they were trying to come for the plaintiff and say that, Cardi B's attorneys could have did a better job of presenting certain evidence, which was very bizarre, and that they could have brought Cardi B's former stripper co-workers to the stand and all of this other nonsense. And so then the rebuttal comes in and basically said that, the defense said that they never said anything about genital or vaginal herpes. So then the Cardi B's attorneys immediately in their rebuttal had pointed out specific tweets from Tasha K that allude to genital herpes. And so, then a poignant thing that Cardi B's attorneys were doing is if they were making a personal connection with the jury, they made it a point to have that eye contact with the jury when they're directly explaining something to them. If they're directly explaining something to them about their client, they're making direct eye contact with Cardi B. If they are calling out the defense and how they presented their evidence and everything else, then they were then looking directly in the eyes of the defense team to show, the inconsistencies with their claims and with their evidence and with their arguments. So they felt that was very strategic and a very impactful for the jury to see, because they were trying to build that connection. And so then back to the defense, there were a couple of times the judge had to admonish Olga, which is some basic law, which is she was trying to invoke her personal opinions in her closing arguments and trying to say, whether or not why did the defense wait to play their videos or something until the defense did, and it wasn't relevant for the case? And so, but she just kept inserting her opinions, and it was like, so the judge had to have certain statements stricken from the testimony, to have the court reporters strike those particular items that basically made it seem as though Olga was inserting her personal opinion on the matter versus just stating the facts and stating what their defense is in the case. They were trying to then say that they didn't have a timeline of when Cardi B got the tattoos, and also there were arguments regarding credibility and everything else. There was a timer so that nobody went over their time. So then after all of this, they wanted to make it a point to then present the charges to the jury. So the judge then is explaining to the jury the entire process of what is heading next for them to deliberate, for them to review the evidence and to request any evidence, that they can send notes to the judge if they have additional questions, or they want a specific exhibit or something else to specifically, talk about or go into detail about or what have you. Also, they wanted to, again, there was like some insinuation that it wasn't really Cardi B's records, which didn't make any sense, because why would the judge admit it into evidence if it was fake records or fake news? That basically the argument was most celebrities use aliases, when they're in the hospital or staying at a hotel or different things for privacy and security reasons. So therefore, her real name wasn't going to, appear. But there's a lot of, privacy and HIPAA and other things involved, especially additional precautions taking place when you're dealing with a celebrity. And so then they were asking why there wasn't an expert witness to speak to that. Like, it was just very bizarre, because it was like all of that was proven. The judge proved that, this was a legitimate health record of Cardi B. So that was like a random argument that the defense was trying to make. And so essentially Brittany Dobbins, she was pretty fair in her assessment and felt as though it could go either way. She's not trying to give a bias or give which side of, which way the jury or anything is leading. So then, essentially they wanted to then bring up the plaintiff, Cardi B's attorneys, that Tasha K did not care, about the videos, didn't want them to come down, that everything was tit for tat, that she was always trying to antagonize Cardi B, that this was fun for her, and that, and so the other thing is they have to decide for the damages if it's just going to be Tasha K that's liable, or if it's going to be Tasha K, Kibi Studios, and her husband that's going to be liable as well, because the argument is, the wife's accusing the husband's accusing the wife. They're not on the same accord. There's no definition of who actually is in charge, since everything is 50-50, and there's nothing legally or any documentation to say otherwise of who's responsible for what. So, again, reiterating back to the jury of what the judge was saying, as far as instructions go, was to keep in mind, to ask questions, and, what the different definitions were of defamation, what the definition of malice is, and to really, make sure all of the appropriate precautions and everything else and all of the rules and regulations were taking place before they headed into deliberation and different things that they needed to consider. Then they also have to consider if there is intentional infliction of emotional distress. And also they made it a point, Tasha K's defense attorneys was saying to the judge that comments made to general public aren't actionable. So that was interesting, and the judge agreed. And so then they wanted to then basically discuss the preponderance of evidence, which is more likely true than not true, and if everything was clear or convincing. So, but again, with these defamation cases, it can get complicated because they are, sometimes it could be hard to argue certain things, whether or not they're defamatory, because there was a video, I guess, that they played that Tasha K did say at the end of the video that she wasn't sure whether or not it was true or false. So, but where we are now is essentially whenever the judge, comes back to rule, when they hear back that the jury is done deliberating, is we need to then get to a verdict. So we need to get to whether or not Tasha K is going to be held liable or not. And so what'll happen is if Tasha K is not held liable, then everybody goes home. The case is over. We are done. However, if Tasha K is held liable, then that means we have to do another trial, because we have to do another trial to assess what the damages are. And that could be another trial for another 3 to 5 days, to where you have to prove the attorney fees, you have to prove the medical fees, you have to prove any other additional damages or any potential, loss of wages of some sort due to these statements being made by Tasha K. So again, either the jury can come back today potentially, or they can make a decision by tomorrow. We just don't know where, their views are, where they stand. If it's going to be an immediate, open and shut, like we're going to come out with a quick verdict, or if it's going to take them a little bit longer because they want to do a thorough review of all of the evidence, or make sure that they are reviewing everything once more. Also, they wanted to then say as well, there was a question that Mr. Dennis Byron was asking Brittany Dobbins if, there was anything that was going to impact the YouTubers. And, she essentially said that she doesn't see from a legal perspective anything changing, but, the approach to the shock jock value type of, reporting and everything else, like that the whole point of this case is to prove that bloggers are not immune to being sued, that bloggers are not immune to being taken to court, if somebody feels that something in their videos was defamatory or slanderous. So usually we'll see it against like a magazine or against something specific, but this is the first time, and the level of high profile this case being against a celebrity, that the celebrity brought this to the attention to sue the blogger, and the impact that this will have. So then also, they wanted to make it a point as well, once the transcripts become available, how much everybody really can see and evaluate, everything that took place in this case. Mr. Dennis Byron also wanted to talk about how he still is, wanting to put together a team to specifically address cyberbullying and to do something about it, because it's very important in terms of, people posting different things, and then there is bullying if people don't agree with what's being said, and then they try to attack you and try to come after you and everything else. So it's something that's very near and dear to him. And so then he discussed towards the end basically the demeanor of the jury, and he made it a point to say that when the defense was presenting their closing arguments, nobody was taking notes. They were just kind of looking. But then when they talked about Offset, they kind of looked up a little bit more interested and took a few notes here and there. But when Cardi B's attorney, Lisa Moore, was presenting, their closing arguments for Cardi B's case, they were writing down copious amounts of notes. And a lot of, he said one of the jurors had a visual type of reaction. I'm not sure what that reaction was. And he couldn't recall if this was the same juror that clutched her pearls at that first inflammatory Tasha K video that was played, or if this was a different juror. And keep in mind, it's 6 white jurors and 2 black jurors. So there was one juror out of the 8 of them that just didn't write anything at all, not during the plaintiff's closing arguments, not during the defense's closing arguments. And then he said that the brother that's in the jury was dozing off. So not sure if he got enough sleep or what have you the night before, or if it was just getting taxing on him, or what the situation is, but he appeared to be dozing off. So that is where we are. We are now in the waiting game, and we are going to be, up to the minute with the coverage. As soon as we know something, I will let you know something. And so I just want to say to all of you guys, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the positivity and everything that you guys have been coming along with this case. Thank you so much to Brittany Dobbins. Thank you so much to Dennis Byron for the excellent reporting of what is going on in that courtroom. You guys have been fantastic these past couple of weeks, and I am very grateful and appreciative of all of your coverage, of you letting the people know of what is going on, and I can't wait till we get to the verdict and see what the ramifications of all of this is going to be. And that is all that I have. Please react, you guys. What do you guys think of, what the summation was today? What do you think? Do you think that it's going to go in favor of Cardi B? Do you think that Tasha K can potentially win? There is somebody that is doing videos today saying that Tasha K is winning and that she's going to win the case. And I'm not sure what's happening. Like, I don't know what's going on. Or I don't know if those are the marching orders that was told to that particular person, courtesy of Tasha K to, deploy out to the winos. I'm not sure, because I'm like, how can you know Tasha K is going to win and there hasn't been a verdict yet? But neither here nor there. So we are waiting for the actual verdict to find out whether or not Tasha K will be held liable, and then we will proceed from there, because that will determine whether or not there will be an additional trial for damages. The other thing was perjury was not mentioned in the closing arguments. So again, I don't know if that's necessarily a negative, or it could just be a situation as to where Cardi B's attorneys may file, additional charges in a separate case of some sort for perjury. So that could be the case as to why it wasn't mentioned, because I feel like at this point they did a good job enough of pointing out, the differences in the lies and the differences between the husband and the wife's testimony, and the different examples that they had of the evidence to play for the jury to show the inconsistencies and the differences in the lying and everything else. So I don't take too much of that, of perjury not being mentioned, because I feel like they have more than enough from this case to pursue that in a separate, case altogether. So, but that's all of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Where do you guys think this is leaning? Do you think that we are going to get a verdict today? Do you think you're going to get a verdict tomorrow? What do you think? Do you think it's going to take the jury long to make a decision? What are your guys' thoughts? React. Thank you so much for the love. I saw the love. And one of the comments on Mr. Dennis Byron's live. Thank you. You guys are all awesome and amazing. I am so grateful and thankful of each and every single one of you. For those of you, if it's your first time viewing my channel, welcome. I have a specific playlist to completely discuss everything that's going on in this case each day of the trial, so that we can kind of break down everything that's happening. I've done like a morning recap, an afternoon or evening recap, primarily from Mr. Dennis Byron's coverage, and because there's only like a handful of people who've been there every single day in this trial of everything, identifying everything that's happening. So I have one for that, as well as I have a playlist specific to the courtroom shenanigans that has been going on as it pertains to the Cardi B and Tasha K defamation case. So you can also feel free to check that out as well. And again, to my supporters, thank you guys so much. Thank you. Blessings to each and every single one of you. You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. And I am very grateful. Please do not forget to like and comment and subscribe to this video. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on the channel, and you guys are notified the moment that we get this verdict. So I am hoping we get it today. I would not be surprised if it isn't today, but I am really hoping that we get it today. I'm fingers crossed that we can get that verdict today, and then we can immediately react and have a discussion in terms of what all of this means and what the future holds. So let me know your guys' thoughts. I will talk to you guys again very soon, and have a very nice rest of your day.